Welcome back. I trust that the break's done the job and you're refreshed and ready to go again as we put our foot back on the accelerator pedal and invite our next panel, which is being chaired by the Managing Director of Fresh Digital. Clair Wescott is also the chair of the Pro-Manchester Creative Digital and Media Committee, and the session's looking at data-driven marketing and analytics. So to talk about how data can inform your campaign planning and measuring the success of your marketing objectives, please welcome Clair to the stage to introduce our panel. Clair.
Thank you very much, and thank you from the committee for turning up today. Fantastic, absolutely, to see all of you today, and it's been a fantastic turnout. First, going on to our wonderful panel that we have today for our data-driven marketing and analytics. I'm going to give everyone an opportunity to introduce themselves. I'm going to start with Mark first.
Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Mark Westaby. I'm the founder and technical director of a company called Metricomm. We specialise in big data analytics for predominantly online media coverage.
And Alex?
Thanks, Claire. Hi everyone. So I'm Alex Downing. I'm an account director at an advertising agency called CNS Media. We're a full-service media planning and buying agency. We also do digital marketing and creative and production, but we specialise in using data for campaigns that run across traditional channels like TV, radio and out of home. And Mitch.
Hi everyone, so I'm Mitchell. I'm the paid media strategist at Connected Free. So you might have seen us guys out in the hall, so hi to everyone. So yeah, it's nice to meet you all.
And Dan.
Hi everyone. I'm Dan. I'm CTO at an agency called Mediaworks. We're full service. We've got offices in Newcastle, Leeds, Manchester and Edinburgh.
Thank you. And today we want to take you on a journey and discover elements that can really help you within data-driven marketing. And one of the very first questions that when we got together earlier on this week that we discussed is how powerful data-driven marketing is in today's digital landscape. And I really the discussion that we had amongst ourselves, I really would love to pass over to Mark to discuss, his experience, because I think we can all learn a wealth of information from him.
Can we have a slide up, please?
Am I in the way?
I think it's the next one. Okay, so I don't know whether we can show it over that side as well, because this is really important actually. So we do a lot of research ourselves, and we've just conducted a piece of research looking at the electrical vehicle market, and this is true for brands in general, in fact. The EV market, as you may or may not be aware, is actually really struggling. There's only about 2% of consumers actually buying EVs. So when you see this, markets growing, etc., that's all from fleet buyers. And this is something that the SMMT, Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders, are really worried about. So we've done this piece of research. Basically, what we're able to do is look at the online media coverage generated by all the UK EV brands. This isn't to people who are manufacturing in the UK, but basically who are selling in the UK. And I haven't got the top of the slide on there. Anyway, okay, never mind, don't worry about that. Basically, what this is showing is it's the share of UK Google search for these brands on the left-hand side. This is the electric vehicle side of these brands. And this goes back to an extent to what Rose was talking about before, against the audience generated by online media coverage. Now, this is a pretty astonishing finding. And I can tell you right now, this should turn the marketing and advertising industry on its head. Okay, and this
bold
is the
claim,
first.
Mark. Bold claim.
Absolutely, and this is bold claim. But this is the first time anybody that we've released this. And if you want to find out more, you'll find out more on our website. What this is basically saying is that if you want to increase the effectiveness of your search advertising, bearing in mind that search advertising is the biggest slice of UK advertising spend, 13.4 billion. That's over 2.5 times the spend on TV. If you want to increase the effectiveness of your search advertising and, dare I say, your SEO, one of the best things you can do is increase your spend on PR. Okay, now this is going to absolutely turn things upside down. The point about this is that we're talking here about data. This is the sort of data that brands can use to really have a dramatic effect on their business and drive their bottom line. And as I say, this is the first time this has been seen. It's very, very important for the industry, so very happy to share it with you today.
And it's really important that all strategies, you have to look at every single element of it. There's so many different ways we can go to market. And Alex, can you let us a little bit know more about how data-driven analytics is really impacting campaigns today?
Yeah, of course. So it's really interesting, actually. So I'll talk about sort of three different things, if I may. So in terms of traditional media planning and buying, so campaigns that run across radio, across TV, across outdoor advertising, the data that we now have access to, and some of this is through the media owners that have sort of improved their data arrangements and partnerships over the years, and some of it has actually been influenced by the devices that people are now consuming, traditional media on. It has completely sort of revolutionised the way that we can plan, the way that we can measure, and then the way that we can refine the campaigns that we work upon. So I'll just give a couple of examples, if I may. So we work with a brand that is a jam manufacturer. I won't say the name, but you've probably all got it in your fridge. It's the one with the red and white lids on the jam jars. So their core audience is families across the UK, as you might imagine. Families consuming a lot of jam. So traditionally, they would look at media channels where we can reach the most families. So we might be going on Heart, for example, if they're doing radio. We might be going on ITV, broadly speaking, if we're going to do some TV for them. But what we can do for them now, the TV companies have got access to Tesco Club Card data, and they've got access to Sainsbury's Nectar Card data. And obviously, you're using your Club Card and your Nectar Card with your email, and they can see what you're buying. So then we can find households across the UK that are currently spending a lot on premium jams at Tesco and Sainsbury's, but aren't currently buying our client's brand. And then we can put a TV ad using Sky, using ITV, and using Channel 4 directly into the households that we want to target. So in terms of the targeting, it's improved things immensely. In terms of measurability, again, if we're driving companies online, which we often are with some of the clients that we work with, most of the media companies now have got tracking pixels where we can apply a pixel to a client's website, and then you can identify a household that's been shown a TV ad, or a household that's been played a radio ad on their Alexa, or someone who's listened to an ad on their mobile phone, who's then actually been on the client's website after they've heard the ad or after they've seen the ad, and we can report on that very precisely. And then the third thing is sort of refining the campaigns moving forward. So we work with an e-commerce client who sell electrical goods and white goods. We did a campaign for them a couple of years ago where it was a TV campaign. They told us that they were very much sort of mid-market with their targeting, so that's where we sort of planned the campaign. When we looked at the results afterwards, we could actually see that they were getting more response from a slightly higher affluence household. So next campaign we did, tweaked the targeting, aimed it more at a high affluence, and the ROI for the client increased by, I think it was 70% for the second campaign from the first. So the data that we've got access to through media partners, which is usually the media owners, and the devices that people are consuming media on, that has given us much more accuracy in terms of planning, measuring and refining campaigns moving forward.
That's very, very interesting, but there's so many different challenges with data collection nowadays. If I'd like to pass over to Mitch to talk about just top line of the challenges, but how as businesses we can overcome this.
Yeah, I think there's a few big challenges. I don't know if anyone in the room went through the whole UA to GA4 scenario. Don't want to give anyone PTSD again, but we had lots of clients that moved from Universal Analytics to GA4 and left it a week before, and data stopped processing, had all sorts of challenges. So I think it's something that, in terms of data collection, is a key challenge. I think the biggest thing that's coming up in terms of data collection is cookies and the deprecation of cookies and third-party cookies. I think it causes a lot of challenges in that, one, businesses aren't prepared. I think people like to put things off as long as they possibly can, which I know I'm guilty of as well. But I think also we're going to lose a lot of data. The way in which privacy and user-centric measurement is coming to play, it's going to mean that we're going to lose a lot of that granular detail in terms of and data, in terms of interest targeting, in terms of behavioural audiences. It's going to make it really difficult for us to understand, one, the journey of consumers through the different channels, and also how to attribute and measure the impact of each of those channels as well. So I think it's a huge challenge. I don't think it's one we're going to solve today, but it's something that I think we all need to think about and get prepared for and keep up to date with all the challenges that are going to come up.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the solutions, obviously, we all talk about the big elephant in the room, which is AI. And it's using that data modelling. And that's where I really want to leverage on Dan's skills, because he can really, I'll pass over to him. He knows what he's talking about when it comes to leveraging AI and data analytics.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose kind of jumping on what Mitch said as well is, I think that the challenge you've kind of got with AI and data to a degree is unifying your data. I suppose kind of some of the stuff that we've done and kind of touching on what everyone said is bringing all of your data into one place is kind of the challenge that kind of everyone needs to get to. And I think bringing all of that data from all of the channels is kind of the starting point. And I think understanding how all of that data plays together. So, you know, understanding how each channel interacts with each other is probably the starting point, and how you can then leverage AI on top of that is probably the key that I would say is the starting point for anyone really to understand how things interact with each other. You know, from a brand building point of view and how that flows into performance marketing is a good starting point. And then what we've done as an agency and how we've supported clients is, you know, how do you bring all of that data together? How do you unify it? And then how do you understand how each channel interacts with each other is really the key to then understand how do you overlay AI on top of that. Because ultimately you can't really get the best from AI until you've got all of your data in one place. So once you've got that in one place, you can really harness the power of AI to the best you possibly can. And I would really say that that's the power of AI. You know, you've got AI that really is just embedding tools to a power it can. And again, Mitch will see the power of it with a lot within performance marketing, and it's just making it better to a degree already. But really to get the true power of AI is use it on top of the data that you've already got.
Of course, AI, performance marketing, unfortunately, been doing this for so long, they go hand in hand today. And back to yourself, Mitch, how does that impact your day-to-day when delivering campaigns?
I think a lot of people become overwhelmed and try to use AI for everything, and I don't think you need to be, one, certain on what you want to achieve, secondly, on the KPIs that you want to measure, and then making sure that you're using the best of human and AI combined. So AI isn't a replacement of humans. I think we're all potentially a lot of scaremongering in the industry at the moment about replacement of jobs, but I think there's a place for both, and the people that will succeed will be the people that are able to integrate themselves and get the best out of the tools that they need. And it's been here, AI's been in my industry anyway, in ads, has been here for such a long time. We've had automated bidding for the last 5 years, we've had lots of automated campaign types over the last 10, and auction activity, so it's been here anyway, so I think it's just learning to adapt to what that looks like in the future as well.
Of course. And back over to Alex, because I know that you use that data modelling to actually build some campaigns. So what other insights can you share with the audience today?
Well, I think a lot of challenges in the digital world, and obviously Dan and Mitch, what we're dealing with these on a daily basis, much more than I am, are to do with the, obviously cookies becoming a thing of the past. In sort of the aspect of what I do, so using the data for TV, radio and outdoor, thankfully most of what we do, the audiences that we can build and the data that we've got, doesn't involve cookies. And in terms of the measurement piece, I mean, just to give you sort of a practical example on this, I mean, we've got now the ability to, through mobile phone data, we can actually capture a mobile device ID of a mobile that has been exposed to an advert on a digital billboard. So we can see digital billboards, digital screens across the country. We can, when a client's running a campaign on that, you can see when a mobile phone has been within a defined radius of a screen when your client's ad's been on it. And then if we're driving, if it's like a footfall campaign where you're trying to drive people into a shop or a restaurant or whatever it might be, you can actually then ring fence the location you're driving to and see if that mobile phone that's seen the ad on the billboard has then walked through the door of the premises. And it's not cookie related, it's all telco data, it's cookieless. So thankfully a lot of that sort of challenges that digital guys are facing now
It's
doesn't
pretty,
feed
it's pretty
in.
frightening as well, actually.
It's a little bit big brother, yeah.
I think one of the interesting things here is that, yeah, cookies are going to go. But it's interesting, Alex mentioned pixel tracking. In the PR world, somebody tried to do this a few years ago, and actually they developed the technology to allow a company to see on its website what articles people have been reading. Now, with GDPR, with privacy, you could just imagine the headlines of a brand doing that, people looking at what you're reading. So they've completely bombed, quite rightly. And I think pixel tracking will be next, because I don't know about you guys, but I do not want to be walking down the street and have people knowing what I'm looking at. So, this is nothing to do personally with Alex, but I just find this stuff is just getting too far, and we're going to have to be very careful about how this develops. That's a personal opinion.
I think many of us in this room share the same feeling. But from that, with the loss of cookies and pixel tracking, it only leads back to AI and using conversion modelling, using past data. And Mitch, again, if it's okay if I lean on your expertise, just to talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, I won't go into too much detail because my brain hurts all the time from trying to learn about it. But in Google, we're looking now at modelled conversions rather than actual conversions. So there are two types of conversions. You've got actual and then you've got modelled conversions. So when someone interacts with an ad, if they've got cookies turned off, if they've got iOS, what are we on now, 17, on their phones, it means that we're not able to track their activity down to behavioural level. So it models conversions based on the data that we have for actual conversions and tries to match ad interactions to the actual conversions. So it's not, although you might see a conversion in analytics, it's not an actual conversion, it's a modelled conversion. It's really accurate, probably about 95% accuracy at the moment with Google. But it's something that we're going to have to get used to, is trusting ad tech platforms and trusting views of data that we haven't had to before. So I think it's scary, but also quite exciting as well from a user perspective. It means that we're not using lots of your data, my data. We're looking at it from a modelled perspective where people like us have done X in the past, so therefore we've taken X action and it's not directly linked to our behaviour, which I think we'll all be pleased.
Well, that's the way we do it. We do it the same way that Mitch is talking about. We use models, and they are very, very accurate. And I think that is the way. I mean, Google's going that direction big time, so that's the way we go. And that the data I showed you earlier on, that's how we produce that. And it's remarkable what comes out of that. I just wanted to pick up a point, actually, that Dan said as well, about when he was talking about the need for data and AI. I think one of the problems with AI is that it's one of those buzzwords that just people try and use it for everything, right? And I think they're getting carried away. I mean, AI can do some fantastic things. We use it. But, it's as though people just try and shove it in there because it's got to be trendy. And I think you can fall into that trap if you're not very careful. But, back to Dan's point, I think the key thing is to pull all the data together. One argument we would make very strongly, and this, by the way, isn't just a big PR for the PR industry, but what we can see is that online media coverage is very, very, very powerful, and so far it has been neglected. And we think the sort of data that we're finding should now be fed into the sort of models that Dan and Mitch are talking about, and indeed Alex, because it's far more powerful than people have realised.
And Dan, from your perspective, do you want to explore a little bit more within that model?
Yeah, sure. I mean, in terms of kind of where we look at it, I guess the key is to try to understand what you want to get out of the models as well. I think anything with AI, I think people think that you can just push into it and it'll understand what you want to achieve. I think the key bit with anything marketing, with anything AI, is to understand what your objective is. And we kind of touched on that just generally when we were chatting about how we kind of build out our kind of growth framework. And when we talk to clients, we try to understand really what is your underlying objective. So when we kind of approach a client, we kind of have 4 kind of key business drivers. And they kind of start at, generally a client says they want to make more money. But really, it's how do you want to make more money? Is it more revenue that you want to make? So revenue growth. Is it brand equity? So how do you want to grow your brand? Is it customer loyalty that you're trying to achieve, or is it cost savings? And then of those 4 things, each one has 2 underlying drivers under those. So from a revenue growth, we kind of talk about, okay, is it more customers that you want to achieve that revenue growth through, or is it more revenue from those customers? And then in brand equity, we talk about, okay, well, is it more awareness for the brand, or is it more preference for the brand? And that kind of ties into a lot of kind of what Mark was saying there about, how do those EV brands try and drive that growth? And then customer loyalty is, is it to try and reduce the churn? And I think that is a big challenge that we're going to see going forward, because, within the market we're in, we're going to see a lot of people moving about with brands. Or actually, do you want to improve your lifetime value? And again, I think that ties a lot into what we can see when you unify that data and what we need to do there. And cost savings, again, is a big one, and it ties into infrastructure. How do you reduce your cost, or how do you just increase efficiencies? And that really is a big bit to try and understand what are your key objectives, and that ties into what you can do with AI. How do we use those models to try and drive that out? And then you can build different models within that to try and really understand where you can improve the business and tie that into different tactics and KPIs and measure that in a different way.
And that moves away, I think, as well, Dan, from, and I don't know what you think, Claire, but it's basically one of the issues at the moment is that everybody focuses on last click. What is the last click before a sale? Well, actually, you've got to, as we were talking about the other day when we were having a conversation, you've got to keep the funnel topped up at the top, and you've got to go all the way through the funnel. It's not just about the last click.
Yep.
And that, again, goes back to what we were saying. That's one way of getting the funnel topped up at the top, and
Totally.
people, I think, forget that. I don't know what you find, Alex, but...
Yeah, I think a lot of what you can do now is kind of full funnel. I think regardless of the channel and the media mix, you can look at very, very much brand awareness-led campaigns where you're sort of feeding the top of the funnel as much as you can. And then you can look at zoning in on an audience that's got is in the market for what you're selling right now, using these new sort of digital ad delivery platforms, the data and stuff that we've got access to. And I think for most clients, obviously, depending upon objectives, like you said, and depending upon budgets and where they are in the market, it makes sense to try and do full funnel activity as much as possible. But I think, definitely you need to expand your horizons rather than just looking at last click in terms of where it's all been delivered from.
And I think, the long and short of it, that essentially it was 60% towards brand, 40% towards, short-term customer acquisition. And I think a lot of that 60% has been lost over the last 3 to 4 years, and everyone has been thinking about how do we just get short-term revenue because the market has been tight. And I think we do need to think about, that brand building is massively important because it's been lost. And I think people are starting to see the impact now of not investing in brand. So I think it's really important to consider, okay, what do we need to do?
Just with one of our clients, a big furniture retailer in the UK. I won't tell you who it is, obviously. But they saw performance marketing metrics increase in terms of CPAs, in terms of cost per clicks, losing market share just because they hadn't invested in brand, and the brand equity had declined so much over that time that, one, it became harder for performance marketers, but 2, the brand was just really weak. And not to plug, but Rose mentioned C360 at the start, and that is our answer to that problem. A performance marketer, myself, talking about a brand probably seems a bit strange, but we really do need that investment at the top of the funnel and that awareness driving activity to really grow a brand so that it makes my life easier as a performance marketer, but also the brand equity as well.
Well, thank you very, very much for each of you on our panel today. I really do hope that everybody has got something from it. Everyone's available if you want to go get a little bit more information. I'm afraid we're up for time, but if you do have any questions, as individuals, we're all available and always happy to help. Thank you very much.